By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome back to the Hog's Thigh, DC's unofficial leading source for all things Redskins and the NFL, brought to you by TicketClub.com. Alex and myself, that's Sean, we are back this week after traveling. And Jamal and Steve, you held it down, but you rearranged all the furniture while we were gone. What the hell, guys?
That's the least of your problems. We almost kicked you off the show for missing too many in a row.
You got to watch your back on this. This is a cutthroat business.
Yeah, we're
look,
we don't have no cut cards, no passes.
God, good to know. All right, fair enough.
We have nothing but passes.
Well, this is a huge week. Obviously, it is Dallas week, and we've got lots to talk about there. Got a great show for you to preview the game, but not to start on too much of a somber note, but it's definitely something we have to mention. Redskins Nation lost a very cherished member. I guess it was today, maybe last night. I'm not.
It was today.
It was today, meaning Wednesday, the day we're recording this.
Yeah,
the day we're recording. So that we definitely have to mention. We are, of course, referring to Rich Tandler. So Rich has covered the team for decades. Everybody knows Rich. Rich actually has been on the Hog side. He came on it much earlier when we were terrible. As Steve tweeted out earlier today, he had no reason to do that because we were so bad back then, but he did. Kind of shows you what kind of guy he was. So if you guys just want to say something about Rich, we should do so because this was big for Redskins Nation.
Yeah, let me, as you said, Sean, and as I tweeted, the great thing about Rich, and we're not going to pretend that we knew him all that well, but we did know him a little bit, but we weren't a colleague, of his in the same manner that the beat reporters were, but we did know Rich. And what was beautiful about him is it was obvious immediately that he helped anybody and everybody. Because as Sean said, he had no business coming on our show back then. We were terrible. It was really early. And the thing is, though, he was kind of living his dream, and he started the way we started. And I think he probably wanted to help us because he saw a little bit of his own start, in it. But what I loved about him is the story he had. About how he started. He was in a restaurant business, and he gave all it up just to pursue his dream to cover his favorite team. And he threw everything away to do what he loved. And, if I could give any bit of advice to people out there who are younger than me, I'm not saying give up every bit of your income like Rich did, but find something you love. And because this made him happy, and so this is what he did. And so I endlessly admire Rich Tandler for that.
Well said, Steve. Well said.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and just like I don't know him that much. You guys know him way more than if anything, y'all know him more than I know him. However, I kind of just want to back what Steve was saying because It's kind of funny how, I think I interviewed him, or I was on the show one time or maybe twice when we interviewed him as the Hogstye. And then, I went down to Richmond one time. I actually introduced myself to him. I interviewed him down there as well. But I knew, like, sometimes when somebody doesn't really remember you.
Right.
So, like, I kind of figured that, but he recognized the Hogstye. And, he gave me about, I think we talked for maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, the interview in 2017. So I do appreciate, he wasn't necessarily hostile or rejecting or seeming too important. He gave me that time. We set a time together and he stuck to it. He didn't, like I said, he didn't push me off or anything like that. So, I appreciate what I did know of him. And I came to know him a little bit more through the podcast that they had. Like I said, he seemed like a very kind person, and I appreciated what he did for you guys before I got here, and also when I was here. So he was really a really good dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, some things go way beyond the world of football, and this is one of those things. So have to start the show with the shout out to Rich and say that this show is for him. Let's get a win this Sunday for Rich as well.
Yeah, the Redskins announced that they're going to set aside his seat in the press box forever. So nobody's ever going to sit in the Rich Tandler. Yeah. So rest in peace, Rich Tandler. And from all of us here, our condolences to his family, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, 63 is way too young to lose anybody.
It is. Well, we'll be thinking of him throughout this week. So, in his honor, let's get into this, guys. So, maybe up front, before we get into the actual game preview, we should do some injury updates and some roster moves that have happened up front. Steve, you got some injury news for us?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Injuries. Now, bear in mind we're recording this on Wednesday, and so Wednesday typically is Veterans Day off if some people are getting it. But the list is long and distinguished. Troy Apke, who seems like he's never going to play football ever again, DNP. Jameson Crowder, Danny Johnson, who's got the broken forearm. Paul Richardson, Sean Laval, Adrian Peterson, Brandon Scherf, all DNP on Wednesday. Ryan Kerrigan, Chris Thompson, limited. And then the Trent Williams, still on the list. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. Trent is on the list. But
thank God.
He did practice on a Wednesday. I think it's the only.
Could you go back and find the last time he wasn't on the list?
No, I
think
did
at this point?
a while ago. I think he was on this all of every game last year, I believe. I'll go back and find the last one he wasn't, because it's been a couple years.
It might have been the Shanahan era.
I also want to know, when is the last Wednesday he practiced fully, because this just blew my mind when I saw this.
Oh, yeah.
And in terms of the Cowboys, names
it's a banged up team, isn't it?
Yeah, names of note. Tavon Austin didn't practice. Randy Gregory, limited. DeMarcus Lawrence, limited. He's got a shoulder injury. The big name, though, is Sean Lee. Sean Lee's been out because Sean Lee is
also always injured.
He's a gigantic walking injury. And but he may play this week. He's got a hamstring problem, and he's listed as limited. So if he's limited today, that means if he doesn't have any setbacks, he's probably going to play. So we may be the beneficiaries of the first Sean Lee game back in, a couple weeks at least.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Tyron Smith is on the list too, but he practiced fully. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
Good to know. Now, we also had to part ways with the player in the last few days, did we not?
Yep.
Who was the lucky beneficiary of the dreaded cut?
Ziggy Hood has been released. Ziggy wasn't getting
saluted.
Yeah, Ziggy wasn't getting any playing time. The Redskins did do him a solid, though, if you notice this, guys, out there, because the CBA says you get credit for a full season if you play more than 5 games. You know how many games they played? 5.
Five, right.
You know, and it's week 6, and so they clearly, it allows them to build up a credited season towards retirement. So I have a feeling they probably did him a solid because he's a good dude and they like him.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was that, and they kind of were probably planning. Okay, Stacey McGee's going to be ready by then.
But they don't have to,
off the pup
they
list.
don't have to cut. They've got 3 weeks to deal with Stacey McGee. They didn't have to do it this week.
Oh well, yeah, but I just think we all kind of knew that was going to come at some point.
I didn't know it was going to be.
They weren't going to cut Stacey McGee.
They had to do somebody.
No, but we knew Stacey was going to come back at some point, and someone was going to have to go. So Ziggy, what did he play here? 3 years? Two seasons?
Well, no, it's 2.
This is 2 or 3.
This is the 3rd year.
This was
Ziggy
season 3.
Put a little Instagram thing out and said he, in his 2.5 years with the Redskins. So this is year 3 for him.
Okay, yeah, and never a dominating player, but always was, I guess, kind of the veteran leader of that group in the locker room of the defensive line.
He wasn't necessarily, good at everything, like you said, Alex, but he played out of position. And they knew they needed a nose tackle, but Ziggy did it anyway until they could find one.
Right.
And we still don't use it yet. We're in the nickel packages, but yeah, definitely. What you were going against.
Yeah, and thanks for the yeoman's effort. I guess that's all you can say.
Basically, yeah. Hell of an effort, guy. He wasn't necessarily up there in skill level, but
no,
he definitely put the effort out there, and I appreciate it.
He gave at least 95%, maybe 100%.
You have to have a bunch of Ziggy Hoods on any team.
I agree.
Yeah. I'd rather have a guy like that than some of the other idiots we've had who just goof off all the time.
I'd rather have him than Albert Hainsworth on the defensive line, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Pretty much. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's roll up our sleeves and talk some Cowboys, guys. I'm ready.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I feel like when the Redskins look in a mirror, they see the Cowboys, and when the Cowboys look in a mirror, they see the Redskins, because these are two teams that smack very similar to me. And in a lot of ways, I can defend that through the show, obviously, because we're going to break it up, offense and defense. But basically, that's reflected in their records. Neither team has won or lost twice in a row. It's a constant up and down, back and forth for both of these teams.
Yep.
So, That in mind, why don't we start Redskins offense, Cowboys defense, and what we think the prognosis is this week. Obviously, Alex and I missed last week, but not exactly a great game coming up out of Carolina, despite the win. So what do we think is going to be the outlook this week?
Well, first of all, I'd like to curse CBS for putting Tony Romo on as the announcer this week. I mean, I don't.
Well,
why,
you know they're
why
going to do
have
that.
to do that. You know, I mean, seriously, why people do we have to have Tony Romo for the Cowboy game? I mean,
That's a lot of Cowboys. You can't avoid
the national
Cowboys.
Game.
I guess
You can't avoid them.
I
You can't avoid them in the
I
announcers.
want to, though. Okay, anyway, in terms of Redskins offense, Cowboys defense, this is a tough game from my perspective. This is a really tough game.
Yeah.
You know, what we do well, I think what we've proven we do well, and when the offense is rolling to the extent it's rolled anywhere, is we can run the ball, and then that sets up play action, short passes, crossers, all that stuff. The problem with that is that Dallas Cowboys happen to be one of the top defenses in the National Football League. You know,
That's right.
Fourth in points, fourth in rushing yards. They're only 12th in rushing yards per attempt, but I'm just telling you, if you look at what these teams have done to them, the only player they've given up yards of any significance to is Chris Carson with the Seahawks. He had 102 yards, but it was on 32 carries. You know, no other running back has really done a thing to this team all year. It's a tough game.
And some of their games they've outright just dominated.
Yeah, exactly.
Fully.
They've just completely dominated. So it's a tough game. Where they're vulnerable from a stats perspective, I think, is in the short passing game, which that does play into us. The reason why I say that is, quarterback rating, 94.6, opposing quarterback, 67% completion percentage. So if they have a weakness, I think they're weaker in their passing defense, and their corners are nothing to shake a stick at. So I think that's where you got to go. I don't think this is a game where you count on Adrian Peterson to run 120 yards.
Yeah, I would back up all of that you just said. I endorse everything you said. I think Byron Jones is pretty good in their secondary, but not that great. That's definitely where they're susceptible. But for the Cowboys, it's the front seven and the defensive line. Those are the guys that anchor the entire unit. You mentioned DeMarcus Lawrence earlier playing injured with the shoulder problem, but he is going to probably play, right? I don't think that's...
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And not only that, but DeMarcus Lawrence has sacks, 5.5 sacks already.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yep.
And by the way, I read the wrong numbers. I was reading the Redskins numbers. Let me back up in terms of defense real fast. Second in yards per attempt, 8th in rushing yards, 11th in passing yards. Quarterback rating, I thought I was wrong when I was saying it. Their opposing quarterback rating is 99.5. And so they're making quarterbacks look like borderline all pros. So those are the real numbers. Ignore what I said before. Those are the real numbers. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they're kind of a misleading defense in some ways. They practically shut out the Jaguars last week. It was a crazy score, like 40-7 or whatever, but they kept, they kept getting the ball back off of turnovers. It's not exactly a defense that you can say excels at any one thing. They've just got kind of good pieces all around. You might be able to bust out a big play, but they're pretty solid all around. Pass defense, run defense, the entire thing. Just to continue with those guys up front, besides Lawrence, their linebackers had huge games last week. Jalen Smith and the guy with the crazy name who's the rookie this year, Vander
Verman.
Vander Verman, somebody. Those are really athletic linebackers, like Zach Brown kind of prototype linebackers. That's going to be a tough matchup for us on offense.
Jamal, tell us why we're wrong.
Or we could be right. You don't have to.
I'd rather us be wrong because we just preached how good the Cowboy defense was. So I'd rather us be wrong.
Well, I personally, when you're breaking down the Cowboys defense, I'll put it this way. I personally agree that with everything that you all said, but I do think, in terms of their front seven, I just happen to think that they are actually as good as advertised. I don't think it's a a pretend defense. They have speed. They're physical up front. The linebackers that you mentioned are pretty quick as well, and they flow very fast as well. So it's hard to get around the edges. It's not impossible, but you have to be on your P's and Q's. Your tight ends have to block well, and so does your receivers. And I think that's what really is important when you look at a defense like the Cowboys. First and foremost, the interior offensive line is going to have to handle theirs as well, because it's not just in the run game and what we really need to excel in, but there are going to be obvious passing situations. And the thing that has killed us in the past, and specifically last year when the offensive line wasn't what it was, and actually I take that back. Hold on. Since 2015, we've had issues with the Cowboys defensive line. And they weren't even as good now. So for a while, we've struggled. And I still remember in 2015, the Monday night game at home, where the Redskins were struggling to pick up the stunts all night. And
that sounds familiar.
I think exactly. We struggled to pick up the stunts all night. Kirk Cousins was under siege. I think he fumbled twice. I don't know if we lost him, but he definitely got sacked a few times and fumbled twice, or maybe once. I don't remember, but he definitely fumbled at least once. And these type of things is what's going to be going on against the Redskins this coming Sunday. So it's going to be on the interior line and just in general. I've actually seen Trent Williams to one point get put on his backside because they were struggling picking up the stunt against the Panthers. Yeah, I think it was the Panthers.
No, it was the Panthers. I know what you're talking about. Play you're talking about.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so it was the Panthers. So these type of things, for whatever reason, it just gets in the way of them being successful in protecting the quarterback. So these type of things up front is going to be what really wins or lose the game. Well, it'll make a big difference, because eventually when we get to the defense of the Redskins, that's gonna be a key issue as well. So I can't say that y'all are wrong. Their defense is very good, but I also think is as good as advertised. And they're quicker and pretty solid in the back end as well. So they're not world beaters. You can find a way around them, but I definitely think they're as good as advertised.
Yeah, it's a great call out on pass protection. We're going to have to be really, really good with that this week, because I think you said, Steve, Lawrence had 5 sacks or something.
Five and a half.
5.5.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith, I think, has like 3.
I think so.
Himself. So this is going to be a huge week on pass protection. But just to build off of that, I would just run this by you. We got to protect the quarterback, but also it's ridiculous how many cut-ups I've seen, and people were posting this on our site earlier today. I think it was Beantown Greg was posting this on our site today, of how many open receivers Smith is missing, even when the protection is there. So I got to ask you guys, what is the deal with the missing the open receivers with Smith? Is this just rustiness with the team, unfamiliarity with the receivers? Like, what is this?
I mean, if you guys had bothered to be on the show and not be out gallivanting around the world, you would know we talk about this. And the bottom line is, that's Alex Smith just missing him. It's just as simple as that. He's just not seeing him. There's several huge plays that even live, without the benefit of replay and all 22 and all that, I was just mouth agape, wondering what he was seeing in some of these things. I just like to, in terms of their defense, I also like to add that I don't have it in front of me. I meant to look it up and I ran out of time. But the Cowboys' win percentage is startlingly different with and without Sean Lee. They win a lot more games with Sean Lee than without. Just historically, when he's been there, because he's the J.J. Watt, of Dallas in terms of injuries. Really good, but never there. But they're a lot better with Sean Lee. Anyway, I think it's just Alex Smith missing these. For whatever, I don't know if he's getting used to the offense, if we overrated him. I don't know what the issue is. He needs to be better, because a lot of the stuff is on him. I think
it's got to give, because the throws are there.
Yeah,
they are to make the throws that are there.
And I think this game is going to. I think how you beat Dallas seems to me is a Jay Gruden special. I think you go West Coast on these guys. Quick release.
Dink and dunk the hell out of it.
Quick release. Because you don't want him back there on 7-step drops with a fearsome defensive line who's got 18 sacks on the year already, which they do. But again, they give up a real high completion percentage. I read the wrong one before. It's 70.4.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way you beat the Cowboys. But because we're just not going to run a lot against them unless we have.
The problem is we haven't seen that kind of offense yet from the Redskins. Every game the Redskins have played, it's been the same power run, kind of clock control.
We've seen it. Just
yeah,
didn't work.
we have not seen this team execute that Jay Gruden classic West Coast offense. And we never really saw that with Kirk Cousins either. He was trying to get it downfield a little bit more than I think a real West Coast offense would. When Cousins was running it. But, we just haven't seen that. We haven't really seen anything other than Plan A. I was saying this earlier on our blog. The Redskins' Plan A has worked 3 times. It's failed 2 times, and we've never seen a Plan B or Plan C that's been effective.
There is no plan.
Well, it's not that the play. No, let's be clear. The playbook has, a wide variety of plays in it. What is not happening is that some of our receivers are not always getting open, and B, when they are getting open, the quarterback is not throwing the ball to him,
not seeing
him, and not throwing the ball to him. He's also holding the ball a long time, and when he is hitting some of these crossers, like he hit, this happened to Jordan Reed against Carolina. He's holding the ball so long that he's keeping some of these players from getting yards after the catch.
And he's missing the window basically.
And what I was going to say, too, as well about the quick passing game and getting the ball out of your hands quick is also what comes into play at that is you got to remember the Dallas defense, they don't necessarily play a soft coverage. They will challenge your corner, your receivers, and that's going to be on the receivers to win their individual battles. From what I understood, and this isn't me, because I haven't had a chance to look at the Panthers game once it finished. But from what I understood is that they were the defense was bracketing Jordan Reed. He wasn't necessarily having single coverage against the Panthers. So that leaves the opportunity for the receivers to get open. My assumption, I don't know what the game plan is going to be heading into for Dallas's defense, but I would assume it will be eliminating your best weapon, which is undoubtedly Jordan Reed. It'll be on the receivers to win their individual matchups, and if you're going to go short game to try and find a way to move the ball down the field in the passing game and have some consistent success, it's going to be on these receivers to win these battles and also find the holes in the zone if they're going to make sure. And it's going to be on the quarterback too. Again, we saw what was going on offensively. The clips have been put out with Alex Smith missing some unfortunate areas in the zone coverages and stuff like that. So it's going to be on the receivers and quarterback to be in sync and also know for the quarterback to know where his receivers are going to be when the time comes, because the pressure will be there. I know for a fact that's not going to go away. But the question is, can Alex Smith and the receivers be on the same page and be ready to counter the pressure that will be coming? So we'll see.
And I know we got to move on. The last thing though is the Dallas Cowboys would have to be idiots to not run a ton of stunts against our offensive line, because teams have been stunting our offensive line the entire year. And that's when they've looked bad. It's for that reason. The Colts did it to them. So I expect plenty of stunts. They're just going to have to figure out how to pick them up.
Yep. Well said. Yeah. Those guys call themselves the Hot Boys. I don't present that with any commentary. I just offer that for you to know. The Dallas defensive line calls themselves the Hot Boys.
You're leaving the joke unsaid.
That the joke writes itself. That's right. All right. Let's move on to the other side of the ball then. That would be Cowboys offense versus Redskins defense. Obviously, the story this week is that Cowboys offense, because they blew out the Jaguars last week again to the tune 40-7. So it was quite a game. A lot of those points did come out of turnovers, but it was a good game for the Cowboys offense. And I think a lot of people were looking at them differently or thinking maybe they were starting to come alive. So, I don't know. I'll start off just in general. Cowboys-wise, this is a team with a similar identity to us. They're not going to sit in the pocket and throw to their very limited receiving core. So it's a running team, lots of bootlegs, lots of shallow crosses, lots of play action. I think there's not too many mysteries about what we're going to see from Dallas. It's just whether or not we can defend and execute against it.
Yeah, if you can cover a slot receiver, you pretty much can shut down their best receiver.
Yeah, but that's not that's not the problem with the Dallas Cowboy offense.
Oh, of course not.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
The Elliott Prescott 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
this team begins and ends with Zeke Elliott.
Right.
Dak Prescott is a runner. He's not that great a passing quarterback. Sorry, Cowboys fans. He's just not. Zeke Elliott averaging 5 yards a carry. As a team, they're averaging 5.1 yards a carry. This team, if you can stop Zeke, I think the whole trick to beating the Dallas Cowboys, stop Zeke Elliott, keep Dak Prescott in the pocket, make him beat you with his arm. That's your best chance.
Right. I think in 2 of their losses, they had less than 100 rushing yards.
That's how to beat them. It's as simple as that. And so this is a game when our supposedly fearsome – I didn't mean it. That sounded negative. Our newfound defensive front, John Allen, Deron Payne, and Alex's boyfriend, Matt Ioannidis.
Troll.
Because they're in a relationship now, if you guys didn't know that.
It's great for the show.
Those 3 guys.
It's not like I ever mention Matt Ioannidis in anything online or –
Well, I understand. He's your man. I mean, I get it. You have feelings for him. No, but anyway, seriously, point being, those 3 guys, if ever we needed them to step up, it would be this game. It has to be those 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. But what are the chances, I guess, seeing what we saw last week from them against Jacksonville, what are the chances we were actually going to have success playing QB contain like that? Because it just seemed like everything they were calling, and it was working to great effect, was getting Prescott really quick out around the edge. It's easier said than done, I guess. It sounds obvious, but that's what I'm saying. Easier said than done. And I think I love the guys you mentioned. I love our guys up front getting pressure, but I just don't know that they're going to match up that well this week against Dallas.
I think one of the things that's going to help is it's going to be on the coordinator as well. And I believe putting 8 in the box is going to be something that is I personally be all in for it. If you trust your corners to go up against I forgot his name
Cole
already.
Beasley and Tavon Austin.
Cole Beasley, thank you.
Yeah.
Cole Beasley, and I think Tavon might be out this week.
Well, Tavon,
don't quote me on it, but that's what I heard earlier.
Tavon, earlier we said he's on the injury report. He did not practice Wednesday. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, sorry. So Tavon, and then I believe Terrence is on IR. So you got those 2. If you really trust your corners to go up against those 2, and possibly Allen Hurns, I believe, this is one of the weeks where you want to challenge Dak and make him beat you, just like you had. I think, Steve, we talked about it. You forced Cam Newton to beat you in a critical situation, and he couldn't do it. And this is going to be the same thing, the same opportunity you had with another quarterback. Make sure you keep him in the pocket. However, when you are in running situations or in running downs, 1st and 2nd and long, things like that, or 2nd and medium, keep that 8 in the box. Make sure you make sure that Dak has that opportunity to drop back and throw the ball. Because if you want to win this game, you do not want Zeke running on you. He's averaged, the team, not he, but the team since he's been on board has averaged 150 rushing yards against you for over 4 yards a carry. And that's what's been winning them games, dominating in the trenches, and this is something that has to stop today, or when Sunday.
Yeah. I actually think that Dak Prescott is a lesser version of Cam Newton. I think they're very similar players.
Smaller.
Yeah, he's smaller. He's not as good a runner. He's not as talented a passer. He's a lesser in every respect version of Cam Newton.
Not as good looking,
I'll leave that judgment to you. I mean, it doesn't really matter, Looks aside. No, but the other thing is I don't really trust Fabian Moreau to be single coverage on Cole Beasley. I think this is a game where you have to use the safeties to bracket him. And Jamal has a good point about, putting 8 in the box. And I'm all for that to an extent, but I don't think you can just let Fabian Moreau just take Cole Beasley the entire game and have 8 in the box every time.
Well, you and I talked about this online too. I mean, maybe it's worthwhile just put Norman or even maybe Dunbar on Beasley. Because he's clearly their best receiver. Put your best corner on him.
That's what I was going to say.
Don't have a history of that, though. They don't do that very often.
No, but
yeah, I know.
It's just it would. You're right, Steve. But it's just a shame if you've got the personnel in the backfield to shut down the one guy that I love Beasley, but you've got the people there to shut it down. So if a mismatch is created with Cole Beasley against Moreau, like you're saying, he's getting beat. There's no excuse for that.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd propose from an X's and O's standpoint. I'm wondering if maybe they ought to play a little bit more cover 2 this week, so you have the double safeties high that take the back. The back 2 zones in the back of the field, and I think that would provide more safety coverage, in these zones against Cole. And then you have you have the slot corner, and then you have the linebackers covering the shallow middle, and I think you just you have to, I think that may be a possibility. The other possibility is they just have a safety roll with him at all times. They just roll the coverage to Cole Beasley. As
long as them damn inside linebackers know their zone assignments, I'm all for it.
Oh, that's not necessarily the case. Is the problem?
Yeah, I don't want to see Brown on Beasley. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, from there we are at about 30 minutes. Do we want to go ahead and do predictions for this game?
Yeah, let's get this thing done.
All right.
Rip it off like a Band-Aid.
All right. Well, I will. You know what, Alex? I'll take your advice and I'll start us off for the game prediction. I think this is going to be a slow. Not slow. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't see either offense running away with it because both defenses stack up well. I am going to go – and the other critical piece of information here is that this is a home game for the Redskins, away for Dallas. They have not won yet in an away game this year. So all those things in mind, I think Redskins going to take this one in probably a squeaker. It's probably going to come down towards the end. Let's call it 17-14 Redskins.
Okay.
I somehow knew you were going to say that. So I'll go next.
That's why I wanted to go first. I'm really predictable.
And I agree with you. It's going to be low scoring. We've just been beaten by the Cowboys so many times in a row now. I'm just frustrated beyond anything about it.
Yeah. Prescott hasn't lost yet to us, Alex. This is the time. He hasn't lost yet to the Redskins.
If anybody was curious, we're 2-8 against them in the last 10, and we've lost the last 4.
Yeah. So that's not good. I don't until they prove it. I don't think we turn it around. Low score, like you said. I'm going to say something like 17-10. Cowboys win.
Fair enough.
I'll go. I think. Oh man, these predictions have been a roller coaster. I'll tell you that much. I'm going to give us some credit. I'll give us some credit this week. I didn't think that they were going to be capable of hanging tough in there against the Panthers, and they proved me wrong. This week is a bigger test for Jay Gruden, and I actually wrote about it. I think that he's aware of that, and with that being said, this team is going to try and pile together some consistency for the sake of himself and for the sake of knowing that he has to beat the Cowboys, and this is very important. They haven't won against Dallas in 2 years. They haven't beat the Dallas at home since 2012. So with that being said, I'll give the nod. I'll give some respect to the Redskins. I say that they win at home 24-20. Yeah, 24-20.
Okay. When we did our season predictions, I predicted this game to be a loss because at the time, I was just so frustrated with seeing Dallas beat us every time that it was sort of a prove it to me before I'm willing to predict it. But sitting here thinking about this game, Dallas isn't any kind of Super Bowl team, okay? We've harped their defense in the show tonight, legitimately so. But Dallas hasn't done – the only game they've looked really good against was last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm willing to say that was – I wouldn't call it a fluke, but they're not going to have that kind of performance every week. So I'm going to go against trend, and I'm going to say that the Redskins can pull this game out. And by the trend, I mean, losing to the Cowboys, the win-loss thing, all of that. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game for sure. I'm going to say 2017 Redskins.
There you go. All right. So I think that's 3 wins, and Alex was negative Nancy this week. Boo to Alex.
Hey, did you guys see, before you get clock off here, I was trying to find it. I don't find it. Dan Steinberg put stats out. This boggled my mind. The Redskins are 2-2 in their last 2, and then like 8-8 in their last 8, and then 20-20 in their last 20, 40-40 in their last 40. He did this all the way back to 1940. Math. And get this. This is from Steinberg Wednesday night. The Redskins, since October 12th, 1940, are 547-20. In every way, in almost every measure possible, if you add up the Redskins' results, and here's another one, 284-2 since November 28th, 1982. In every way possible, this has been a 500 team by almost every way you could possibly measure it, records-wise. It just boggled my mind. So let's
we're
break
having
that.
A quintessential year, in other words.
It goes back to the 1940s, man. It's a quintessential franchise. It's not a year. But so let's break that trend. That's the point. Let's break that trend. I swear to you, I'm not being a homer. I think that the Redskins will play better. They're at home. Dallas is going to have 2 great games in a row. I think we can win a squeaker.
I like it. Let's do it this week, and let's do it for Rich.
Yep.
All right. We will clock off then there. Make sure you're coming back to thehogsty.com throughout the week. We've got written previews there. And make sure you're checking back for the episode because we will recap the Cowboys game once it is over. Can't wait. We'll see you then.